Hey up, how are you? You alright? I'm alright, having a decent evening. I've got some positive news today. I know, very rare for the Wednesday, but some positive news. I'll get to that in a minute though. I'm just getting my breath back because I thought I'll do a video. But first I'll have a quick brew and a fag on bite. Big gulp, forgot to take tea bag out of cup. In throat, scrabbling about outside. And they say your life flashes before your eyes, but it weren't so much my life that flashed before my eyes as my future. And I don't mean the big future, you know, I weren't particularly a deep thought, you know, like, oh God, what happens to kids and all, that's if I die. It weren't that far in the future, it was more like a couple of days into the future, this vision I had of the coroner giving his report. Yes, he's died of tanning. I mean, you should see the inside of his throat. It looks like a builder's cup that's not been washed out for 40 years with a clog. You know, so I've had that very... So just give me breath back. You didn't need to know that before telling me. Anyway, the positive news is Henrik Pederson has signed an extension with a club. Now, people wondered what Henrik were doing because he was at Hillsborough. Everyone else is at St George's Park. Well, what's going on there, you know? Have they got him in to put a lick of paint on stand because we're so short-staffed? But no, Henrik was there signing a new contract. A contract he's delighted to sign. Now, you might say when a club is in such a shitstorm, why would somebody be delighted to sign? He can't even guarantee he's going to get paid for the job. Well, I think he's probably delighted to sign because he knows there's an opportunity not so far into the future where he might have the opportunity to manage this massive football club. I did that just for you guys, yeah. Massive football club, one that would be the biggest on his CV to date. So that's a really positive step because a hugely popular figure at Hillsborough with the players and the staff behind the scenes. And also, as we've learnt from plenty of interviews since he's been here, but he did a majority of the training work anyway, you know, certainly all the attacking phases of play, already heavily involved in that and sort of got his stamp on it. So in a week that's been an absolute whirlpool of shite and bad news, a beacon, Henrik Pederson signing that new contract. I saw Henrik Pederson when he first come, probably only been here a week or two. I'd gone to the park with Mrs. and kids, and I saw him, but you know when somebody's that new, you can't be sure it's them, and I'm like, is that new coach over there? And I was looking at him, and then he turned around, a big full Wednesday trackie on, HP, so 100% wearing him, and he, you know when your eyes catch, and he looked at me and he gave me that little nod, you know, like Robert Redford in that gif. And I nodded back. And to my great regret, I never went over. Because fundamentally, I am a very shy person, you know. Which I know you'll all think's cobblers because I do this channel and whatever, but I am shy. I am. Years back, I used to run an amateur football team. I can remember end of season, got a lad retired in, played centre half for me. We had a couple of pints and he went to school, he was in year below me at school, and he says, you know, funny thing, Jimmy, he says, I don't remember you from school at all. And I said to him, well, you wouldn't do. I said, because I was crippled with shyness, I never talked to anybody. You're not shy, he says. I said, I am. No, you're not. He says, I've been listening to you do teen talks for the last 3 years. He said, you're not shy. And I said to him, that's an act. The ideas are mine, the methods are mine, everything I want you to do, that's all from here. But sometimes you've got to find a way and to act that out to get the point across, you know. I mean, okay, hardly John Gielgud, but you get the point. So, seeing Henrik Pederson, I was too nice to go over. And he was giving me that look as well, like, come on son, you know you want to come and ask me about Wednesday. And I really wish I had now. I probably would do it these days, although these days he'd be too busy to talk to me because he's probably going to be the next manager at Sheffield Wednesday. But anyway, that is some terrific news for the club. Some other great news for the club. The club is properly for sale. Mr. Chansiri has handed over the responsibility of selling the club to a proper agency, you know, which in real terms, instead of making a little, you know, marker pen thing out and sticking it in his window for sale, you know, he's got Blundell's round to stick a big sign in his edge, you know, that's what the equivalence of it. And that can only be good news. People who are experts in a field selling football clubs, selling a football club, and doing it in the right way and following all the proper procedures, rather than just tipping up and saying, here's 300 million, I'm cool today, you know what I mean? Books, you don't need to see the books, a proper process. So that's terrific news, that he's accepting, that this is undoubtedly endgame for him. Undoubtedly. Can you tell I left school at 15? Anyway, so fantastic news that things are going through a proper process now, so that he and the club can move on. I'm saying it's his idea, it might not be his idea. I keep getting this vision in my head that I can't quite shake off. That he's been a bit like a teenage kid who's been grounded, coppers have brought him home. But he's been at it again, and he gets your room, you little bastard. And he's in room, sulking, Can't even play my PlayStation because my mum's took leave to work. And chucking himself on bed. I hate my life. But, whether it's father grounding him or whether it's actually him, a positive outcome will come from it. Because Wednesday, officially for sale, with experts in the field going to sort out a deal with potential investors. So, 2 huge bits of good news there. Although it's funny thinking about Chansiri, and I've been thinking about him today. And his character arc to becoming this supervillain. And he has become a supervillain in the end. He's been like as I said it in the last video, he's been like a megalomaniac in a Bond film, this. But when you look back to when he first came, and I've seen that footage recently, I've looked back at it because obviously Milan Mandrik popped his head above the parapet and that got me thinking. And I got that image in my head when he first came, and Milan handed over that sort of wooden trophy of an owl, as a representation of the club, and he sort of took it, Thank you. What the fuck says? Thank you. And he made all them right noises, didn't he? And he looked a little bit like a rabbit in headlights. He was like, I'm just a custodian. I'm just here. I'm a guardian of this club, and I want what's best for you guys. And I thought about it. I thought, he's a kid. I saw him as a kid. Vast wealth. Never really had to do out for it. He's not even involved in his dad's business. He's like, over there, son, play with it, And he's tipped up, and I almost got the impression a little bit lonely or whatever, and then suddenly he's thrust into the spotlight. I don't think he realised how big football was, English football, or how big Wednesday were. So he's tipped up, and then everyone's chanting his name, and he's getting mobbed, and he's like, oh God, what's going on here? And he's like, hey, whatever, everyone's bouncing around him. And I thought, it almost looked like he was naivety. And as I said, he's had a sort of arc to his villain character. But I think he started off, what's the nearest one I could think of? Perhaps something like Sandman in Spider-Man, where he only goes out on rob because he's trying to pay for his daughter's treatment, and then he becomes a supervillain. That's what, And I got that impression, and I can remember seeing them early scenes of him, like I said, getting mobbed at York and whatever, and in the stand, and that initial press conference when he's like blinking up, flashlights are going off. And like I said, an almost naive look, which then put something else in my head. He came out, didn't he, and he said, I don't really know anything about football. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm going to have to learn, Very naive thing to say, actually. And then it puts that scene in my head. Do you remember him finding Nemo? Swimming along. Oh God, what's going on? And then that shark turns up. Hello. I hear you up at the football club. You've probably heard, though, that the game is full of sharks. But it's not true. There's so many good people in the game. I don't want you to get ripped off, so maybe I could help you. I've been in the game for many years. I've got plenty of friends in the game. Some of my friends have a stable of players who will bring great quality. Listen, have you ever heard of a guy called Alman Abdi? Do you know what I mean, though? I know he's been a wankhead. I know he's been a shithouse. He's said some terrible things to people. Behaved appallingly. Not paid staff. not paid working class people, Sheffield Wednesday supporters, people in his city, who have still been tipping up at work, by the way, unpaid, through sheer love of the club, let's be honest about it, treated them appallingly, fell out with every manager he's ever had. Every time someone suggested an idea to him, he's got lip on and this or that. And I think it all goes back to that. He's had trust in Sharks because he felt that they were on the same level as him. These people are used to dealing with millions of pounds. They're on the same level as me. We're the top men. We know what the world's about. These knobs down here don't know what's going on. Which is why we never sold any fucker. That's why we've never traded properly. Because he's just gone with a word of these supposed mates. You know. I mean, his big thing, do you own a business? Well, shut up then. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, I know millions of people who don't own businesses. I know a lot of people who's only on minimum wage. But I would trust someone who's on minimum wage who manages to pay a mortgage every month, have a car, feed 2 kids and everything else and pay the bills and the tax and the national insurance. Because then people understand the value of money. They understand about having to, take your belts in when things are a bit tight and having to put a bit away because there's a bill coming in and we're going to have to get rid of that. We're going to have to get rid of Skybox. We're going to have to flog 2 litre card and get a 950. But you don't see it like that. Unless you've got money, you don't know anything about money or business. See, he's never had to want for that, has he? So, and that side of his personality, I think, has come out to the fore. The more and more he's got himself into shit, and his friends have got him into shit. But like I said, I look back at that in the early days, and there's almost, and maybe I'm an empath, but there's almost a tiny part of me that sees that old footage of him and thinks, that poor fucker's had his pants down. And like I said, he's turned into the megalomaniac villain at the end, but he didn't start off that way. And the thing is, when it's all over, and we are approaching endgame, and it will soon all be over, he still won't know, will he? He still won't know that it's those decision makers that have fucked him. It's those decision makers that have cost him the chance to get a massive football club into the Premier League and all the rewards that go with that. It's not the fans who's cost him. It's not the people who open the gates in the morning to let the cars in. It's not the lads who open the training ground. It's not the ground staff. It's not even the players, not even the managers. The people who's cost him are his friends and advisors. And because of the level of thinking, and almost like a class system, a class system, a caste system, however you want to look at it, he will still not twig that it's them fuckers who's ruined what could have been, for him and us, a dream. And to that end, I do feel a little bit sorry for the bastard, got to be honest with you. Not that sorry for him, no, because he's still going up to a massive house and that, but you know what I mean. There's that tiny bit of empathy for him, But if you're pig-headed and you won't listen to people who actually know what they're on about, no, you're right.